All right, so get this. We're diving into a world where you could buy real stuff, like sneakers, or even property, all using cryptocurrency. You sent over some stuff about redeemable NFTs, Boson Protocol, and something called Fermion Protocol.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I think this deep dive could get really interesting.
Well, what we're talking about is maybe a huge change in how we buy and sell things.
Like a revolution.
Yeah, potentially. These protocols are trying to build a way to do commerce without the middleman.
Okay, I think our listener needs a minute to catch up. Everyone grab your coffee, get comfy, and just imagine you're online, see a killer deal, but instead of checking out normally, you buy a redeemable NFT.
And that redeemable NFT basically guarantees you that item in real life, like a digital ticket, but for anything.
So you're not worried about the seller not sending the product or your payment being messed up?
Right. The whole system runs on blockchain and smart contracts, so everything happens automatically and safely.
This Boson Protocol seems like a major player here. Their website says they're creating Web3's decentralized commerce layer. They even talk about tokenizing any physical thing. Is it really possible to buy anything this way in the future?
That's the vision they're going for. It could be anything from everyday stuff to, like, super expensive assets. Imagine buying a car, a house, even a piece of a famous artwork, all through this decentralized marketplace.
Whoa, that's wild. Okay, back to Boson Protocol for a sec. They keep mentioning these NFTs with superpowers. Is that just marketing, or is there something more to it?
No, there's more to it. Superpowers means these NFTs come with extra stuff, like benefits. They could give you access to special events or rewards, even let you vote in a decentralized organization.
So it's like digital property, but with a bunch of perks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the Boson token fits in. It's the fuel for the whole system. Holding Boson means you can be part of decisions, pay for things within the protocol, and even earn rewards.
So it's not just buying and selling, it's being part of a community and benefiting from the platform's success.
That's the idea behind decentralized commerce, yeah. Taking power away from big companies and giving it to the people.
I was reading on the Boson website how important trust and accessibility are to them. They talk about empowering individuals and making things fair for everyone. But honestly, can we really trust a system like this, especially with all the ups and downs in crypto?
It's a fair question. One thing they use are game theory mechanisms. These help make sure everyone acts honestly and fairly.
So it's not just about blind trust, but creating a system where everyone benefits from playing by the rules.
Right. It's using technology to create a marketplace that is more transparent and trustworthy.
You said over this paper, digital institutions create wealth by increasing economic computational complexity.
It was pretty intense, but it seems related to all this. It talks about computable capital.
Yeah, that's a key concept. The idea is that putting real-world assets onto the blockchain, making them computable, could unlock huge economic potential. So instead of physical things being stuck in paperwork, they become digital tokens that are easier to trade and manage.
Exactly. Imagine instantly verifying who owns something, or dividing it into smaller pieces, or using it for a loan, all on a secure and transparent blockchain.
That could change so many industries: real estate, art, even supply chains. But what does computable capital actually mean for everyday people? Like, why should they care?
Think about it this way. Right now, a lot of wealth is trapped in illiquid assets. It's hard to access or use its full potential. But by making them computable, we can unlock that value and give people more opportunities to participate in the economy.
So it's not about making the rich richer.
No, it's about giving individuals more power, reducing the need for middlemen, and making the system fairer.
Now, Justin Bannon from Boson Protocol gave a talk called The Battle for Ownership of Everything. He talks about a future where all physical assets are tokenized. He calls it the physical RWA super system. Sounds kind of crazy, but also exciting.
It is a bold vision. Imagine owning your house, your car, even your identity, all managed on the blockchain. It could change how we see property, value, and our connection to the physical world.
He even mentions unlocking exponential wealth through these decentralized assets. Does that mean everyone will be rich? Should I be picking up my yacht?
Hold on, slow down. It's a huge potential, but we got to be realistic. There are still lots of challenges, both with technology and society. This is all very new.
So no yacht shopping for now.
Maybe not just yet, but it's not about everyone becoming a millionaire overnight. It's about creating a better system for everyone.
Okay, back to reality. If this physical RWA super system does happen, how does Boson Protocol actually get there? How do they get millions of people to use this?
They're focusing on partnering with companies that already have lots of users. Bannon talked about working with WooCommerce, which powers a ton of online stores.
That's smart. Instead of starting from scratch, they're working with platforms that people already use.
Right. It's about making decentralized commerce easy to use. Imagine shopping on your favorite store and being able to buy with crypto and get an NFT.
Okay, so we've got Boson Protocol building the foundation, NFTs with superpowers, adding extra benefits, and partnerships bringing this to a lot of people. But there's also this Fermion Protocol, which seems to be built on top of Boson. Is that too many protocols?
Think of it like a house. Boson is the foundation for decentralized commerce. Fermion is like building a special wing on top for specific needs.
So Boson is for everyday things, and Fermion is for something else.
Yeah, Fermion is for high-value stuff that needs extra verification and security, luxury goods, real estate, things like that.
Makes sense. But is this all getting too complicated? Will people actually understand how to use this?
That's a great question, and that's something we'll explore in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll look at the challenges and risks and talk about how these systems might evolve to be more user-friendly. But for now, let's how. Welcome back. So we've been talking about this future where you could buy, well, anything using crypto and these redeemable NFTs. But like with any new tech, there are some questions, some things we need to think about.
Right, because change always comes with some unexpected stuff, right?
Yeah.
Let's be a little skeptical here and see if there are any problems with this whole decentralized commerce idea. Where do we even start?
Well, one thing people worry about is what if all the power ends up with just a few tech people? What if the companies or developers end up controlling everything?
So instead of getting away from big companies, we just end up with new ones. That's not exactly the freedom we were promised.
Yeah, that's a real risk. It's really important to make sure these systems are truly decentralized, with ways to distribute power and prevent anyone from having too much control.
That makes me think about transparency. How can we be sure these platforms are fair and that the code isn't, like, rigged? Blockchain is supposed to be transparent, but can we really understand it if we're not programmers?
Transparency is super important. We need the code to be open so anyone can see it. We need clear rules and ways to hold the developers accountable.
So it's not enough to just believe what they tell us. We need to be able to check for ourselves that it's fair.
Exactly. Decentralization isn't a magic solution. It takes work from the community to make sure it's working right.
Okay, let's say we figure out the control and transparency stuff. What about how complicated this is? Crypto and blockchain are still pretty intimidating for a lot of people. How do we make this easy for everyone to use?
Yeah, if people don't understand it, they won't use it. We need simple interfaces, clear explanations, and education. We got to make this tech easy to use.
Like, remember the early internet? It was a mess until we got things like web browsers and search engines. We need something like that for decentralized commerce.
I agree. We need to hide a lot of the complicated stuff and make it feel familiar, even if the tech behind it is totally new.
And we can't forget about security. There are so many stories about people losing their crypto. How do we make sure these platforms are secure enough to handle people's money and assets?
Security has to be the top priority. It needs to be built into every part of the system, from the blockchain itself to the apps people use.
You mean like a two-factor authentication, hardware wallets, and all that stuff?
Yeah, all of that. Plus, we need to carefully check the code for any weaknesses and make sure it's secure.
But even with all that, people make mistakes. They click on bad links, lose their passwords.
Yeah.
What happens then? With banks, you can call them if something goes wrong.
That's one of the tricky parts of decentralization. Blockchain transactions are permanent. You can't undo them. It's great for security, but there's no safety net.
So no going back, no undo button? That's kind of scary. How do we deal with that?
Well, education is key. People need to really understand how this all works and how to protect themselves. It's a lot to learn, but it's important if you want to use this tech.
Okay, we've talked about power, ease of use, security. Now, what about the bigger picture? If we're really talking about putting everything on the blockchain, does that change how we think about owning things and what they're worth?
That's a big question. Imagine ownership being more flexible, where you can easily split things up and trade them anywhere in the world. It could change the economy, but it might also challenge our ideas about property and value.
It's like we're going from a world where we own things permanently to a world where everything is constantly moving and changing hands. Does that make us more entrepreneurial, or does it create chaos?
It's hard to say. It's like a whole new world, but we need to have these conversations and think about how this tech will change our culture and society before it's too late.
Right. Technology changes how we think and act. Which brings me to something else, the environment. We know blockchain can use a lot of energy, especially the proof of work kind. What happens when we put everything on the blockchain? Will we destroy the planet?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. The good news is that the blockchain world is working on this. There are more sustainable options like proof of stake, which uses way less energy.
So we can have the benefits of blockchain without destroying the planet.
I think so. We need to prioritize sustainability, be willing to try new things, and realize that this technology can't succeed if it hurts the environment.
It feels like we're just starting to understand this whole thing. There's so much to think about, good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's so important to have these conversations, to hear different viewpoints, and to be both excited and careful about this technology.
Totally. We've talked about a lot, but there's still more to explore. We'll continue this in part 3 and try to imagine what this decentralized future could actually look like and how it might change our lives. Okay, welcome back. So we've talked about the good and the bad of this whole decentralized commerce thing. Now let's try to actually imagine what this future could be like.
It's definitely a challenge to picture, but if these platforms actually work like they're supposed to, we could be looking at a really different way of thinking about ownership and value, maybe even work.
Let's start with ownership. We've been talking about how tokenization could make things easier to trade and divide up. But how would that change people's lives?
Imagine being able to invest in like a tiny piece of real estate or an expensive artwork, even if you don't have a ton of money. Or a small business owner could use their tokenized assets to get a loan without dealing with banks.
So it's about giving more people access to opportunities that were only for the wealthy before.
Exactly. And it's not just about things like real estate. Think about things like music or art or even data. What if creators could sell their work directly to fans without giving a big chunk to, record labels or publishers?
That would change everything for artists and writers.
It really could. And this also connects to how we work. What if we could tokenize our skills and make a decentralized marketplace for talent? You could find clients and get paid instantly and securely.
Like a global network of freelancers, all connected through these platforms, working together without needing companies or bosses.
Right. And as these systems develop, we might even see new kinds of organizations pop up, like DAOs.
Oh yeah, DAOs, we talked about those before. How would they work in this future?
DAOs are basically organizations run by rules written into smart contracts on the blockchain. Everyone who holds tokens gets to vote on decisions.
So instead of having a CEO making all the calls, everyone has a say.
Exactly. It could completely change how we work together, how we fund projects, even how we govern ourselves.
It sounds pretty radical. But I can also see how it could get really complicated with so many people involved. How do you make sure things run smoothly and decisions are made effectively?
Yeah, that's something developers are trying to figure out. They're experimenting with different ways to manage DAOs, like different voting systems and ways to encourage people to participate and make good decisions for the whole organization.
It's all very new, but it feels like we're seeing the beginning of a completely new way of doing things.
I think so too. It's a huge change and we're just at the start, but there's so much potential.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I keep thinking about how the future is unpredictable, but also full of opportunities. We have the chance to influence how this technology develops and make sure it benefits everyone.
It's exciting and a little scary at the same time. We need to be both curious and careful, thinking about the good and the bad that could come from this.
We've covered a lot, from how these NFTs and protocols work to the big questions about what it means to own something in this new world.
And it's important to keep having these conversations, to question what we think we know, and to work together to make sure this technology is used in a way that's good for everyone.
Absolutely. This has been a fascinating journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into decentralized commerce. Keep exploring. And remember, we get to shape the future.